up, cocksuckers? You know what it is. It's Monday night. It's time for the MMA Podcast, the 74th edition here on January 20th, 2014, or the 21st if you're on the East Coast. We got a bunch to talk about, as we always do. We had UFC Fight Night 35 this past Wednesday. That was Rockhold versus Philippou. We want to talk about all the winners on that card. Yoel Romero shitting himself. Dillashaw, Tavares, Rockhold, Moraga, and Miller. We're going to talk about those fights. We had a bunch of news. GSP talking shit. Chris Lieben retiring. A few fights announced. Of course, this Saturday, UFC on Fox 10. Henderson versus Thomson. We're going to break that down as well. Let's do this shit. Cock suckers.
We did it for the love of the game. We did it, mama. I did it for. Mama, we did it. The game will never be the same. We did it, mama. I did it for.
You're listening to the MMA Podcast.
That's right, Lenny Hart. It is time for the MMA Podcast, and let's get straight to it. Before we do our introductions, I do want to remind everyone that we try and do this every Monday night between 9 and 10 p.m. Pacific, midnight and 1 a.m. Eastern. It is the reason our buddy Yao The Truth isn't on the call. Follow him at YAO_The Truth. He's got training to do. He's got to get a good night's sleep. But if you happen to be up, if you are a night owl, and you want to call in, the phone number is 213-457-3380, 213-457-3380, or you can Skype us. Save a little bit of money. Don't pay Verizon all that money for all those minutes. Just Skype us at the MMA Podcast, all one word. That's also our Twitter and our website. Like I said, we do it every Monday night, and we've been getting back in the groove of doing the MMA Roundtable Tuesday afternoons at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. over in the United Kingdom. We have our buddies Ray and Jay we do that with. So definitely tune in tomorrow to the MMA Roundtable. We throw those up on iTunes and YouTube. So if you want to follow us, subscribe us on the iTunes or the YouTube, you can just check the little bar at the top of the MMApodcast.com, which hasn't been updated since UFC 166, which is all on me, but or you can obviously just search us, the MMA Podcast, and we are pretty good about throwing the episodes up within a few hours of us going live. But enough about the MMA Podcast, goddammit, because we got two amazing guests on the line tonight. First and foremost, a guy I chilled with 4 days and 4 nights in Las Vegas, can attest personally that he is a grade A gentleman. He is protecting the mean streets, of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You can follow him on Twitter at Westlin Eagle AH. What the fuck's going on, Alan?
Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing tonight? It's a pleasure to be here. I'm exhausted, but gotta put work in on the podcast. I love talking MMA with you guys. That's what we're here to do.
And that's something we all love. We all love to bullshit. We all love to talk MMA. So doing an MMA podcast actually kind of works out. And of course, you know him as a large variety of things. The Aunt Jimmy Show, The Word on the Street, Hamzy Silva. But you know what I can say is only so much. Joey Diaz put it best.
Sometimes you hide your weed and you don't know where you put it, but you get high and you'll find it.
What the fuck's going on, Ramses?
Not much. Thank you for having me on your show on the MMA Podcast, the best MMA show that you can possibly find on a Monday for damn sure. You know what I'm saying? That's right, people. Jake, good to see that you're not taking the day off for MLK, because it was a long time ago. Yeah, it was too long ago. But yep, everybody follow the Aunt Jimmy Show on Twitter. It's the word on the street. But right now, it's the MMA Podcast.
That's right. It is the MMA Podcast. And if you do want to listen to the Word on the Street, that will be tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Always have a lot of good guests. We usually have the Honorable Coach Jamie Huey, who is giving us updates from Brazil. Not any updates that's gonna get him fined $5 million by Zuffa, but general updates, weather, all that good stuff that he can share with us before obviously this season of Tough Brazil goes live. Definitely listen to the Word on the Street. And also, we'll give quick shout outs to all of our friends at MMA Mental. Ray is always doing it big over there. Our buddy J_Gene, Sweet Pappy Jones, they all can be heard on the MMA Roundtable. And the people you can hear on our podcast, Ross Finkelstein, the best Jew in the business, E before the L. Chris Lowenstein, C. Lowenstein, and shout outs to just friends of Team Darkside, the Mad Samurai, MMA Enthusiast, Elena, who else? Whom am I leaving out? I tweet all these fucking people, but all of a sudden I can't think of any. Ramsey's Cat Lady.
Friedman.
Not Jenny Friedman.
Lexi and her Jew boyfriend.
Lexi and her Jew boyfriend. Whoever the fuck. Thank you for supporting the show. Thanks for being a part of Team Darkside. We love the shit out of each and every one of you. Med Ninja Technics. Mystery Meds laying down dope tracks if you do follow him on Twitter. Let's get down to business. Enough with the bullshit Twitter shoutouts. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a fight to watch this past Wednesday. A lot of people were bitching and moaning, I don't want my fights on a Wednesday, I want my fights on a Saturday. Guess what, people? We didn't have fights on Saturday, but like I tweeted out, after, like looking forward the next 9 Saturdays, 8 of them have UFC cards, so we can't really bitch about not having enough Saturday cards. I think the only day in the next couple months there's not gonna be a card is February 8th, the week after UFC 169. But you've got a murderer's row of fights going from UFC on Fox 10 this coming Saturday all the way up to UFC Fight Night 39 in Natal, Brazil, which we actually recently heard is going to be headlined by Dan Henderson and Shogun Hua. And my phone's blowing up. Let me silence that real quick. The prelims. UFC Fight Night Rockhold versus Philippou. The recap. Did you all watch the Fight Night prelims, and what stood out to you? I actually don't have the card in front of me because I'm an ill-prepared host, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. I'm stealing the Jews line, ladies and gentlemen. We had a upset in the first lightweight match. Beniel DeRush took out Charlie Brenneman via first-round submission, rear naked choke. And Vince Pichel defeated Garrett Whitley via unanimous decision. Did you all watch these? What did you think of the UFC Fight Pass? This is something that's up and coming. How was the quality? If you did watch it, I had awesome quality. It wasn't a problem. But yeah, Alan and then Ramses. What did you guys think of that Fight Pass?
I actually enjoy it, man. I really like watching it on Fight Pass. I like the setup. Like you said, the quality is excellent. Whenever I put what I do is I plug it, from my computer into my TV, and I watch it on the big screen, and it's perfect to me, especially for streaming the prelims. I think it works better than using the Facebook and YouTube and all that good stuff. But the thing that stood out to me about the prelims was Charlie Brenneman going down in the first round. It's like every fight that he loses, that he gets finished in the UFC, he loses in the first round, and if he gets out the first round, he wins. And he got caught with a punch, and what's his name took his back, and it just sucks to see him. It was a short notice fight. He took it on like 2 weeks notice or something, but it was his comeback fight to the UFC, and to see him lose it, my heart really goes out to him, because he's had some rough spots, and I was really looking forward to seeing him do real good. But the guy he went against was a really good grappler who had some good Muay Thai. So
And
Well-
really quickly, the Ustream link was down that entire time. So apparently, only I was coming through. Yeah, I was having weird Ustream issues. Actually, the first time ever, Chrome just wasn't clicking with it. So I opened it up on Firefox, and I apparently had the output as just my microphone. So we are up and going on Ustream now. Thanks for Yao for texting me.
Wait, then how did Chris hear that comment I made? Doesn't make sense. We must have been on at least for a little
It
while.
may have clicked over. I don't know, but it's fixed now, cocksuckers. So go ahead, Ramses. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we were just talking about what stood out about the prelims that just what was it, a week or two ago, whatever it was. Yeah, I have to agree, man. The thing that stood out about the card, well, was the fact that it was on the Fight Pass and the streaming was excellent quality. Whole time felt like I was just looking through glass at the fights. All right, the quality was great. Fight Pass, good grade so far. I also enjoy it. Although I did try to watch Brock versus Couture the other day, and the fucking for some reason it said it was supposedly in 720p, but it looked like a bad it was pixelated. I don't know what was up with that one time. Maybe it was an isolated server incident, but whatever they're using for the live events was excellent. Streams, no problem. Only thing about the Fight Pass is if there's a live event going on, as soon as you sign on, like, you should be watching that fight automatically. It should be up there. I had to look around. Other than that, so far so good. Get your Fight Pass. It's the only way you're going to see Sonnen versus Silva the tough season. Word on the street.
Yeah, the Fight Pass is definitely up and coming. I'm praying so hard that eventually they change it over to the WWE model where you're just paying a fixed amount each month to get all the pay-per-views, because this whole business of needing to spend $1,000 on pay-per-views alone in any given year is fucking preposterous. Let's move on. The Fox Sports 1 prelims. We had a couple more lightweight fights. Ramsey Nijam beats Justin Edwards. Elias Silverio defeats Isaac Valley Flag, both via unanimous decision. Trevor Smith defeats Brian Houston via split decision. Louis Smolka defeats Alp Ozlik via unanimous decision in the flyweights. None of these fights really stood out particularly to me. Yeah, Alan, usually I have something to say, but it was, nothing really was that noteworthy. Alan?
yeah, trying to think. I think I remember the Smolka fight. I know I watched all the prelims and they were pretty entertaining, but nothing really stands out to me.
Yeah, just a very bland Fox Sports 1 prelim card. Ramsey, do you have anything to add?
I gotta say, man, I did not, other than the fact that this one also streamed well on my stupid Time Warner cable connection, which was a miracle. I'm done with Time Warner, man. That's it.
That's it. They're fucking done with Ramses. Yeah, let's move on to the main card then, where we do have quite a bit to talk about. Cole Miller on that opening fight looked really, really impressive. It's been 6 fights now since he moved down to featherweight. He's 3-3. He lost to Steven Seiler and Nam Phan, both by decision. Since then, he's 4-1 though. Beat Bart Palashevsky via first round rear naked choke. Lost to Manny Gamburian, and now he's beaten Andy Ogle and Sam Cecilia. And after he beat Sam Cecilia, which earned him his 4th submission of the night bonus award for tapping him out a minute 54 into the second round. He was really amped up. He actually walked over to the cage and was screaming at at Dana White screaming something. Ramses, what did you think of the fight, and what did you think of his, him going nuts afterwards?
Yeah, he was screaming that he was like a top 10 guy or something at Dana. I believe that's what I heard. And yeah, the only thing about this fight, Cole Miller, he's got the Travis Brown syndrome. He can win 10 fights in a row. Nobody's gonna remember him. All right, you know what I'm saying? He's just Cole Miller. He's that backwoods guy. But yeah, only thing I wanted to say about this fight was he broke his hand during the fight, and I swear I saw it happen. I saw it turn. I know nobody's gonna believe me, but I was gonna tweet, dude just broke his hand, But then I was like, that'll probably never even come out. I'm not sure. I hesitated. Never hesitate, people. Good job, Cole Miller, but like I said, man, you're gonna have to beat Benson Henderson and Anthony Pettis before anyone even tries to remember your name, much less buys your pay-per-view. But good fight.
What'd you think of Miller's victory, Westland Eagle?
I enjoyed it. I thought he looked really sharp, especially coming off of that last fight that he lost, right, to what's his name, to Ronda Rousey's play toy in Boston.
Fairway?
Manny Gambarian?
Yeah, he didn't he lose that fight?
Correct. He lost that at the Boston Shogun card.
Yeah. He really won that fight. There was no way that he lost that fight. It was bullshit. But he's been looking good. But like Ramsey said, he's been here so long, and he's been like a up and down type guy that it's like once you reach that status of to where you're winning and losing, win to, lose to, it kind of just like hurts your credibility as like a top guy. So it's really hard to reestablish yourself as a top guy. So unless he beats somebody like really big, I mean, I'm talking like a top 5 guy, he can cry all he wants, but he's not going to get the fights that he wants. He's not going to get the respect that he wants. So he's really going to have to train hard. And beating Sam Cecilia, a guy who he was supposed to beat. I mean, Sam's a good brawler, but that's about it. And it was a terrible matchup for Sam. So I mean, if Cole Miller would have lost that fight, I would say cut his ass. So I mean, he did what he was expected to do. It's not like he did something special. So until he fights like a top 8, top 5 guy and actually beats him or has like a dominant performance, then I really don't think that the win against Cecilia did anything for him or his credibility as a top guy.
Word. Let's move on. Ramsey's let me know ahead of time we could skip him for a few fights, which I can't really blame him. This was not the most stacked card ever. John Moraga defeats Dustin Ortiz via split decision. Moraga now 9-1 or 8-1 in his last 9 fights. The only loss to Demetrius Johnson. Before that, his only loss to John Dodson. He's 14-2. Seems to be a very legit flyweight. Dustin Ortiz isn't bad himself. He had a 4-fight winning streak going, but now is 1-1 in the UFC after losing to John Moraga. I don't really want to focus on Dustin Ortiz, but John Moraga, do you think we see him fight for the flyweight title again in the next couple of years, Alan?
No way. He lost that fight. Everybody else was, agreeing on Twitter and a lot of the other people that he definitely should have not been given that decision. He lost 2 rounds. And he didn't look like, he was championship caliber.
Word up, yeah. He,
What the fuck was that?
Yeah, there was some sound.
Sorry, I had to mute up. Some shit on my computer.
Mysteries.
No, it was a video game. but I really don't think that he looked impressive. And I think the speed factor, him being a larger flyweight, um, him not being able to cope with the faster guys, just goes to show that if he fights Johnson again, Johnson's going to do the same thing to him. He's going to wear him out, use his speed, and just pick him apart. I don't know. Maybe if he needs to go back to 135, if he'd be more successful.
Word, yeah, I don't know. I think Dustin won too, but you've got to give him credit just as far as his record goes. Only losing to Johnson and Dodson in his whole career training with the MMA lab over in Arizona. He's still in his 20s. I think he's now the number 4 flyweight as far as the UFC rankings go. So. Yeah, it'll actually. I'm pulling up the rankings now. Yeah, he's number 4 behind Ian McCall, Joseph Benavidez, and Don Johnson, and Don Johnson,
Miami Vice.
and John Dodson. Pardon me. But yeah, Dodson will probably get the next title fight, and then maybe we'll see Ian McCall versus John Moraga for the one after that. I'm forgetting who Ian McCall is supposed to fight next, but I think, yeah, he's scheduled to fight Brad Pickett in March. So we'll see if Ian gets over that hump. We will move on. Yoel Romero, he's a decorated wrestler, won the silver medal at the 2000 Sydney Games, the gold medal at the 1999 World Championships, and the crazy thing, we expect wrestlers to fight with this lay and pray method. Every single fight Yoel Romero has ended in a TKO or KO. He's 7-1 now. The only loss to a Rafael Cavalcante back in Strikeforce in 2011. He's finished every fight via KO or TKO now, including this one against Derek Brunson, who it was looking like Derek Brunson could win that fight. He had a 2-fight winning streak going against Chris Lieben and Brian Houston, but Yoel Romero really turned it on in the third round. He got a bunch of elbows to the body and side control, and the ref stopped it way late. It was kind of nasty to watch. Just watching Brunson's kidneys get mashed up into mashed potatoes. But Alan, what do you think about Yoel? Like, do you really think he can rise to the top 10 of the middleweights and match up against those top guys? You still with us, Alan?
Speechless.
He is speechless. Alan, are you there? Going once? Says you're on the call. Going twice? All right, I'm going to move on without you. Let us know when you're back, Alan. I don't know. The one thing really going against Yoel is age. He's a 36. He is kind of new into mixed martial arts. He has 8 fights. He's only been fighting since '09. But yeah, it'll be very interesting because you know the dude's got knockout power, and on top of that, he is an Olympic medalist in wrestling. So he has got maybe the best wrestling in the UFC. We don't know. Let's move on. TJ Dillashaw taking out Mike Easton. Dillashaw looking excellent. All these team alpha male guys just have really formed excellent striking. You're going up against a good striker, a black belt in Taekwondo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Mike Easton. But Dillashaw, he dominated him the first and second round and came out with even more fire in, the third, just, coming at him with furious stuff. Ended up winning the decision 30-27, I believe, across the board. Yeah, it was 30-27 across the board. Dillashaw, definitely by 2015, I expect to see him fighting for the bantamweight title because he is impressive as fuck. Moving down the list, another middleweight fight, Brad Tavares and Lorenz Larkin. Both guys very underrated. Lorenz Larkin losing this though via unanimous decision. Tavares looked really excellent. You look at his record, and he'll probably get a legit middleweight next. The guy's 12-1. His only loss back in 2011. He joined the UFC, won 2, lost 1. Now he's won 5 in a row, which I believe ranks up there in the top, 5 as far as most, most straight wins in the middleweight division in the UFC, even though one of them was a little controversial, the win against Tom Watson back in 2012 in Nottingham, England. But, the guy might not be exciting. The last 6 of his fights have all gone the distance. But he is very underrated. And we will move on. That gets us to the main event, Luke Rockhold and Costa Philippou. Rockhold was the heavy favorite. I actually was going with Costa, though. Costa was known for fighting on the outside, and I thought that would give him the advantage against the bigger fighter, but it was not meant to be. Costa Philippou losing his second in a row. He lost to Francis Carmont. Now he's lost to Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold now 11-2, bouncing back after his second loss in his career to Vitor Belfort back in May 2013. That vicious spinning heel kick in Brazil, like halfway through the first round. But, this definitely moves Rockhold back up the list. I think he was the number 6th ranked middleweight before this. I don't know if it'll necessarily make him leapfrog any of those guys, because they're all pretty good. You're not just going to knock out Costa Philippou and skip over a guy like Jacare or Lyoto, but is that Alan? I hear back on the line. Do we have him back?
Am I back? Can you hear me?
You are back. What the hell is up?
Technical error. My phone froze.
It's all good. And Rockhold is still the number 6 middleweight. That didn't move him up. But Alan, you missed us break down the Yoel Romero, TJ Dillashaw, and Brad Tavares victories. Any thoughts on any of those winners before we move on to the main event?
Dillashaw, Jesus Christ. I mean, Mike Easton's not a top 5 guy, but the ass whooping and, just the killer instinct that he has, and he keeps going for the finish no matter what. He never relents, never stops. He's got that team alpha male type attitude to where, he's always going for the finish. I just think that the UFC loves that, and, they can make a star out of him. He didn't lose his last fight. That was a terrible decision. Chael, Kenny Florian, a lot of other guys said that, he won that fight against Sun Sao. It was a close fight, but I don't think that it pushes him back down too far. I don't think he has to win that many fights to get a title shot. I think they're going to build him for a little while, put him in there against some dangerous guys. But I was very impressed with how he picked apart Mike Easton, who's a bigger guy, who's also very athletically, talented and, skilled on the ground and dangerous. And, TJ Dillashaw just on the feet in the transitions, he's just fast and just accurate, man. He's like a Diaz brother, but with more power and a lot more speed. It's crazy.
Word. Ramses, Luke Rockhold defeating Costa Philippou via first round TKO. What did you think about the fight? Did you smell anything fishy?
Well, now that you have me thinking about it, yes, I did. I think it was a total, complete setup, a work, people, a fixed fight. Costa Philippou taking the first chance he got to fold like a rocking chair. Doesn't even make sense. Fold like a cheap suit. Perhaps a piece of paper before you put it in an envelope. He folded. He pretended to be more hurt than he was. It was a total fucking, the UFC, they owed Luke Rockhold the win after that embarrassing shit that went down in Brazil. He took a dive for Vitor. Now Costa Philippou took a dive for him. That's exactly what you saw. Those liver kicks from hell. Give me a goddamn break. He was tapping on the ground. He went down to one knee. And let's say it was real. That's cowardly on the part of Costa Philippou. Either way, though, man, it stinks. It squawked. It quacked like a duck. It walked like a duck. It was a work. That's the word on the street.
Damn. So it was 100% a work, beyond a reasonable doubt. This was like not even a question of work.
Yeah, man, the guy didn't. They had a little like flimsy exchanges for a little bit, but it was basically Rockhold just delivering strikes to a guy that was not making any effort to get out of it whatsoever, except when he literally took a knee and tapped on the ground, and Dean Yamasaki had to step in and stop it. God bless him. Yeah, man, come on. We all knew Rockhold was going to win this one, and not because he's some kind of great-ass genius fighter. He was owed this. He's a company man now. Always has been. God bless Zuffa, though. They gave us an entertaining fight. All right? And it wasn't for the troops. This one was for us.
Who would y'all like to see Luke Rockhold fight next? Looking at the top middleweight rankings, obviously your champ is Chris Weidman. They still have Anderson Silva number 1. He's going to be out for a while. Vitor's fighting for the belt. Jacare is floating out there. Machida is going to be fighting he's unranked. Gegard Mousasi. You got Bisping floating around there. He might fight Kennedy. Then Rockhold, Munoz, Francis Carmont, Tim Boach, Alan Belcher, Brad Tavares, Yoel Romero. Who makes the most sense to fight Luke Rockhold next, Alan?
Man, I really don't know because it's so tied up. Everybody. Give him to Phil Davis. Phil Davis doesn't have a fight. Luke Rockhold's in the top 10. Give him Phil Davis. I think it's a great matchup. I think that Rockhold's gonna, press the action. Phil Davis, might take him to school and wrestle fuck him. And I'd be interested to see it. I think it could even headline one of these Wednesday night cards.
Yeah, personally, we're going to have Jacare versus Francis Carmont coming up in February. Machida versus Gegard Mousasi coming up in February. Vitor is going to fight for the belt next. That's not going to be until May or July. Why, that next middleweight title fight after a May-July card isn't going to be until the earliest October. It might not even be until December. So, you have guys like Jacare, Lyoto, who might think they're next in line for the belt, but either way, they've got to fight again before the end of the year and before there's a likely title shot. So I don't know how they're going to work shit out, whether they're, Jacare is probably going to beat Carmont. Lyoto's probably going to get beat Mousasi. The two of them might fight one another in the summer for the next title shot. So I don't know where that leaves Luke, because Luke does make the most sense after that bunch of fighters, after Weidman, Belfort, Lyoto, Anderson, and Jacare. Luke seems to be next in line. So I don't know if you give him Bisping. I don't know if you give him maybe the loser of Jacare versus Carmont. If Lyoto or Jacare loses, maybe give him one of them. I don't know. There are a lot of possibilities, and a lot of it's going to hinge on these fights in a few weeks. Middle of February, Machida versus Mousasi, Jacare versus Francis Carmont. Ramses, what do you hear? What's the word on the street before we get to the news?
Fucking Luke, and pardon my language, people. I'm sorry. But yeah, Rockhold has got to fight Bisping. I'm sorry, it has to happen. Bisping's claiming word in the street, word in the damn dojo, that he tore Rockhold up in sparring. He put
Cocksuckers.
that out open in the open. I just said that twice. But yeah, that's you can't let that comment pass. You can't just keep your head down like a wounded puppy. That fight has to happen. Rockhold Bisping. I mean, I'd pay money to see that happen. I mean, but Rockhold versus what? Jacare, or who are you talking about? What is that? Nobody cares. Nah, Rockhold Bisping all the way. Once Bisping gets his shit together and gets that eye fixed up, which I hope happens, but there's a chance that he's gonna have to grudge match it and come into this fight already one eye down. But you gotta do what you gotta do, man. That's it. That's a career he chose.
And looking at the UFC rankings, to correct myself, he is ranked, but because his last fight was at 205, he's ranked at 205, and he is the number 9 205er, one behind a certain Chael P. Sonnen that I know a lot of the listeners take pretty kindly to. But enough with breaking down UFC Fight Night 35. We will get to UFC on Fox 10 at the end of the show, but between now and then, let's get to the news. And the news everyone was babbling on about all week was George St-Pierre and Dana White. Apparently, this is the last feud I thought we would be talking about if you asked me a few weeks ago. But GSP has left the UFC and seems to be on a little bit of a crusade against the UFC, saying that drug testing, and especially the lack thereof, them being very lenient with drug testing, was one of the main reasons he decided to get out of the sport. Do you buy this reasoning whatsoever? You know, Dana White has obviously fired back, saying, "Oh, GSP, you know, if you want to say something, give me a call," saying that you know, they self-test fighters in places like Brazil where they don't have commissions. They follow every commission guideline, which I sort of lean on Dana's side. You know, in most places, it's not on the UFC for them to drug test people. And actually, I could go a step further and say that going another step could be a conflict of interest. I mean, say you have a superstar like Anderson Silva or John Jones, and he's going up against a guy who's going to be on all sorts of roids, and you go above and beyond to test the guy you suspect of roids. That could be a conflict of interest. You know, to be bitter with the UFC, to, you know, not blame this on the commissions, and it is not the UFC's place to enforce third-party drug tests whatsoever. That is so out of bounds of what they're there to do. And if you're gonna be mad, you know, George, the main reason you wanted these drug tests was apparently you wanted to prove to everyone that you were clean. And guess what? You did the VADA testing. You put out those press releases of, hey, see, look, here are my test results. I'm clean. All right, George, you proved your point. Can we all fucking move on? I mean, you know, this dude, one thing I don't like about GSP, which you know, by all accounts, he seems to be a nice guy, but the guy just seems super fake. I mean, you know, you know, me and Alan were there at the press conference, and GSP put on a smile talking about drug testing and said, "Oh, it's just fine," blah 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 blah. And now he's going to come out after the fact and say it was one of the main reasons he quit? Like, come on, George. Like, you know, whether it's this, whether it's acting like he's mad at GSP and, oh, there's a dark place inside of my head. And then after the fight saying, I love Nick Diaz. I would like to train with him. I don't know. Just, and I do apologize for ranting so much on a GSP. Being a big Penn fan will probably influence that a little bit, but Yeah, what do you guys think about GSP saying that he really didn't like the leniency of the UFC drug testing people? Do you buy this reasoning, or do you think it's just sort of sour grapes? A lot of people are pointing toward Dana White being adamant and outspoken about the fact that he thought GSP lost at 167, that apparently rubbed George the wrong way. Ramses, what do you say? What's the word on the street?
Word on the street is that GSP is full of shit. All right, claiming he's never done steroids. He doesn't do steroids. Never taken anything to enhance his performance. He's got the paperwork to prove it. The paperwork that you paid for. That's. Give me a break. We've all seen him in the ring with that steroid gut. Shogun's got the trademark belly flab that he comes in with. GSP had that steroid gut. All right, that 60s Charlton Heston looking, like, it's like, is he cut or is he? I don't know what the hell that is, but he's not fooling anybody, man. GSP's full of crap. He was on the junk the whole time, in my opinion. Allegedly, he was getting some designer stuff going, stuff that you can't really test for, or at least the stuff that Wada, Nada, or whatever it was. We've all seen that email or whatever that got released where his manager's like asking, like, what specifically are you going to test for? Why would you do that? I mean, and then when you ever, like, when was the last time you heard like two guys like accusing each other of doing crack and both of them denying it and like them not being on crack? You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. All right? It doesn't happen. Like, you're on steroids. No, you're on steroids. Oh, yeah, well, let's pay. I got these guys, and let's pay. I'll do it. Give me a damn break. GSP, he's lost his damn mind. We always have to keep in mind that this is a man that, instead of believing that he's taken too many shots to the head, he believes he has been abducted by aliens. Keep that in mind. That's the word on the street.
That is the correct answer, Ramses. Alan, I would hate to follow that, but what do you think about GSP?
GSP. That's all I could fucking hear whenever I was in Las Vegas, was all these fucking idiot Canadian fans screaming for GSP when they know that he's a false prophet. Like Ramsey said, look at the dude. Look at the motherfucker. He's got an HGH gut. I mean, you can obviously fucking tell that he was on the juice. He looks like a small version of Mark fucking Coleman. If you can't see that, then you're blind. So for him to whine and cry about all these steroids and shit, I mean, are you really going to accuse Johnny Hendricks of taking steroids? Look at the fat fuck. He's not on steroids. It's the same people that accuse Chael of being on steroids. You want to know who's on steroids or who has been or used them in the past? GSP and Vitor Belfort are the two fucking poster boys. All he's trying to get is self-vindication by, showing the public that he can pass these fucking tests that he has set up. And the people that he was working with, Vada or whoever, the guy that's in charge of that shit or runs that shit is the guy who was the biogenesis scandal. So are we really going to fucking trust GSP and the guy who, was responsible and went to jail for all of this shit in the first place for helping all these Olympic athletes cheat? GSP, get the fuck out of here.
Alan dropping knowledge on these fools. Yeah, we all had our anti-GSP rant, so you know what we feel about the situation. And sort of to go toward your point of everyone chanting GSP, one thing that kind of bummed me out, Johnny Hendricks fought George St-Pierre in America at the MGM Grand, yet there were more Canadians there rooting on GSP than there were Americans rooting on Johnny Hendricks. A month later, for UFC 168, an American, Chris Weidman, fights in America at the MGM Grand against Anderson Silva, and there are more Brazilians there rooting on Anderson Silva than there are Americans rooting on Weidman. And I don't want to sound xenophobic, and I understand that these are the number one and number two best fighters in UFC history. But I don't know. You would never think that a Canadian fighter would get booed for an American fighter in Canada. It was certainly not happen in Brazil, but it happened 2 pay-per-view events in a row. On the main event, the American was fighting in America, but the foreign fighter fighting him had more fans who came out in support. I mean, I don't know if we've just got to rally up, more support in the U.S. for people fighting, but I truly believe that the crowd noise was a big part as far as GSP versus Johnny goes. When I watched the fight in the MGM Grand round 1, I thought was either 10-10 or GSP won. The rest of the fight, I thought, went 2-2. So watching it, I thought, oh man, this judge's nod could go either way. But then when we were able to watch it through legal and non-spurious means back up in the hotel room, I watched it again. I was like, Jesus Christ, Johnny obviously won that first round, but because the crowd noise and whenever GSP would throw a kick and Johnny would check it, well, when the crowd goes nuts, I sort of think, well, 50,000, not 50,000, but 15,000 people just went crazy for that kick that looked like Johnny checked it. Maybe I just saw it from a weird angle. Maybe it really landed. So there's definitely that. If you're an American and you're listening to this, damn it, support your damn American fighters. Johnny won't need to worry about that in his next fight. He will be fighting in Texas, I believe his home state, against another American, Robbie Lawler. Let's move on. World Series of Fighting 8 was this past Saturday. Jessica Aguilar wins. Anthony Johnson wins via first round KO. Justin Gaethje also wins via quick first round finish. Did you watch? And more importantly, what are your thoughts on the World Series of Fighting, Alan?
I definitely thought that all the top names had big performances. Anthony Johnson looked sharp. What can you say? He knocked Mike Kyle the fuck out. I mean, to imagine that he has that type of power at 205, it's ridiculous. The guy used to fight at 170. I know he's grown a bit, but he could make 185 religiously if he had the right type of diet. But, I think the guy just likes to eat a little bit too much. But for him still being able to compete at 205 at a high level is really incredible. So, I want to see him win. I think he's going to re-sign with World Series of Fighting. He's still young. He's not 30. I think he could win like 2 more fights or 3 more, or whatever he signs a contract for, and then end up in the UFC. It'd be interesting to see him fight some of the lightweights we have. I mean, he's got some really good kicks. He's got some good counter wrestling. He's really dangerous. So, I think he's headed on the right path. As far as Gaethje, dude just looked unstoppable. The only thing that alarmed me a little bit was that he couldn't finish his opponent. Like he didn't take him down. Like he should have took him down and then started wailing on him instead of standing right there. I know the guy's kind of out on his feet and, they called it, but it still kind of takes away from his victory a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see him fight Nick Newell because I don't think it's a good matchup for him. I think he's way undersized for 155. And then Jessica Aguilar, I don't like the girl personally because of what she did at her last fight where she eye poked Megumi Fuji like 4 times in the eye until Fuji's eye closed shut and she wasn't able to continue. So I think that was kind of bullshit, but she looked dominant. She went up against a scrub that only had like 1 UFC fight. I mean, only had like 4 MMA fights, and this was her first fight on the big stage for World Series of Fighting. So until she fights some other girls, it's not really much I can say about her. I mean, she's the World Series of Fighting champion, and what do they have? Like 2 women signed. So, but it was a good night of fights overall. I enjoyed them.
Ramsey's World Series of Fighting. What's the word?
I actually did catch the last maybe hour of fights on this, and World Series of Fighting, I have to give them credit, man. It looks like they're actually, not only were the fights good, I mean, the ones that I saw, it seems like the World Series of Fighting isn't working their fights. Like, they're not working them. For example, just look at fucking, what's his name? Mr. got choked out in 30 seconds after getting cut from the UFC. I'm blanking on a really big name here. That goes to show you what happens when you get cut. Yeah, Fitch. Yeah, just look at Fitch. But yeah, it looks like they're not working fights in the World Series of Fighting. These fights were good. Isn't Anthony, you're going to have to help me out on this one too. Isn't Anthony Rumble Johnson the guy that was constantly missing weight in the UFC? What?
Correct. He used to be a welterweight, and now he's fighting at 205.
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, he's a free agent right now. Everybody's making a big deal of who's going to sign him, this and that. I don't really see the UFC picking him back up. They don't. Those divisions are pretty full, and really, this heat. They'll probably let him stick it out with the World Series of Fighting, man. Honestly, we would have heard about him getting signed already by now or in talks, but no. Either way, good fights. I did see the last hour. I'll give them another chance. The World Series of Fighting, they're doing it right.
Word up, yeah, I really think the World Series of Fighting, they're doing it right. RFA, they're doing it right. Bellator, not so much. Let's switch gears and get back with the UFC.
Oh wait,
what?
While you're shouting out the smaller promotions, sorry, I know this isn't on the list. MFC's doing it right. They signed Gilbert Smith and he won.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
MFC, hell yeah, fucking. Let's.
Yeah, and if you don't have Access TV, you can download it online. That's all I'll say.
Let us get some DFG hell yes for Gilbert fucking Smith.
Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah.
That's right. Hell yeah. All right, let us move on. Chris Lieben, I mentioned him. He's been in the UFC seemingly forever. He fought back on WEC 8 and 9 and 03 and 04. Fought at the Tough One finale. That was his debut in the UFC back in 05. He's been with the UFC ever since, racking up a total of I believe 12 wins and 10 losses. He went 12 and 10. One of the most liked guys in the UFC for good reason. I actually got a chance to talk to him here on the MMA podcast. He was an awesome guest. Had some amazing fights against some really great UFC fighters. He fought some great dudes. He beat Patrick Patrick Cote, defeated Jorge Rivera. Obviously, fought Anderson, fought Bisping, fought Sexyama, Stan Vanderlei, Munoz, the up-and-coming Uriah Hall. He fought a lot of very good opponents. So, looking back on Chris Lieben's career, what is the one thing that's going to stand out? What are you going to think of him for? For me, before we had him on the show, it was definitely the whole Tough One House shit and him punching through a window and him going apeshit on Josh Koscheck and Bobby Southworth. But for me, just the stories he shared about chainsawing up a deer carcass on his living room table, his uncle shooting himself in the foot, trying to shoot rats in a storage unit. I don't know. To me, what's gonna stand out is him always being really cool with both interviewers, fans, whoever. What stands out for you with Lieben's legacy, Ramses?
I gotta agree, man. He seemed just like a really cool dude, man. And yeah, at the end, like a lot of people just wanted to write him off as a bum. I mean, it's crossed my mind, but it's still just too much respect for the man. But when I think of Chris Leben, I think of that voice, man. That 7-year-old woman been smoking 70 years voice, man. I think of that and the fact that on the last UFC Undisputed game for the PS3, he was for some reason programmed to be more difficult than was realistic. He would always be the guy that keep you from getting that title shot. He would always just whoop your ass. He would one punch knock you out. He was that guy. Hopefully he's not in this new game. But, I mean, I guess he needs all the money he can get, so hopefully he is. I don't know. I wish him nothing but the best. He should get on the radio or podcasting or something. Apparently he's got good stories to tell, and he's just, like he said, nice guy. And I actually totally forgot, never listened to the interview that you guys did with him. Where can people find that, Jake, from the MMA Podcast?
You can find it on the MMApodcast.com. Click the links at the top of the page. Get to our iTunes, get to our YouTube, or just search us on iTunes and YouTube. Subscribe to us. You literally can go on YouTube and just type in the MMA Podcast. I don't think it matters whether you put spaces between it or not. You'll find it. And then put Leben Stories, and that was a clip, a little 8-minute clip of him just sharing ridiculous stories on the show. Thank you for the shout out, Ramses.
Hell yeah.
Alan, Chris Leben, what do you think about his legacy, and what are you personally going to remember?
I mean, personally, for me, it's always going to be him getting knocked out by Anderson Silva and Silva's debut in the UFC. I know he put on a lot of battles, a lot of, barn burners, but I don't particularly like his style of fighting. So, as far as like him, and as a person, I think he's, really nice guy. Everybody has nothing but great things to say about him. So I really hope that, whatever he does from this point on, he's successful in it and everything. But as far as his fighting legacy, I mean, he stuck around a long time. He was in middleweight his whole career, landed a lot of punches. I think he's got some stats that are keep him up there in like the rankings for the middleweight division. Some stats that he holds the record in, but he never was like a great fighter or anything. He's just entertaining type guy. So that's about it.
Word up, he will always be known for being on that first season of Tough. We have a few more news bits to bring you, but first and foremost, we got to bring you the 10 solid seconds of sports where we talk all things not MMA. The Denver Broncos and Seattle Seahawks win yesterday to earn them spots in the Super Bowl on February 2nd, pitting the league's best offense against the best defense. Gotta love it. Richard Sherman is crazy. Winter Olympics on the horizon starting Soji Rush February 6th. A-Rod and the OMB both suck.
Fucking legs.
Hot.
Legs.
Hot. Michael Bisping and Tim Kennedy, they're aiming to make that fight for the Tough Nations finale on April 16th. Probably the most popular fighter from the UK taking on the ex-US Army Ranger. Bisping coming off this terrible eye injury where he was like wearing a patch a bunch. It's still, I don't know if he can fully train. But like I said, that fight would be April 16th in about 3 months, as long as Bisping can pass a physical. Do you think this eye injury is going to affect him in the long run? I think it very well could. Depth perception and vision is such a huge part of the sport. I don't know. The guy's eye was super messed up, and no pun intended, but I'll believe it when I see it. Alan, what do you think about Bisping coming back?
I think we're just gonna have to wait and see if he can stand the test of time. Give him a fight, see if he comes back, does all right, he's got to get hit in that eye and see if it doesn't go back to where it was. So we'll just have to wait and find out.
Oh yeah, we got an alarm going off on someone's mic. Ramses, what do you think about Bisping making his return with a bum eye?
It's hard to say, man, but spoiler alert for those who haven't seen the movie, grudge match with Sylvester Stallone, Robert De Niro, and Chael Sonnen. During the big fight at the end or whatever, it turns out that Bobby De Niro, Raging Bull, finds out that Rocky is actually blind in one eye, and that's why he ducked him the entire time. I think Bisping is that type of guy. He'll get in there, even if he can't fucking see out of the one eye. We'll have to see how good he does with it, man. Some people can turn a weakness into a strength. If anybody can do that, it'll be Bisping. But damn, this is like fighting with a broken hand, man. This is it's probably even worse. But I'm a Bisping believer. Tim Kennedy, I haven't seen anything really too impressive with him. Yeah, the guy put him over on the Fight for the Troops. Like, what a coincidence. So it depends on who he's fighting, really. I mean, Bisping, he's still got something left in him. Otherwise, I'd be saying walk away. What are you thinking? Your eye, this and that. But it's something that he can probably get past, or at least he's still got, you know what I mean? He's not on empty just yet. So I'm a believer. Shout out to Bisping.
Shout out to the Count Michael Bisping. We move on swiftly to Tyrone Spong calling out Rampage Jackson. They went back and forth. Nothing really, of note to quote him on, other than the fact that they, pardon me, you drink one beer before the damn show, and all of a sudden you're burping. But it was one of my favorite beers in the entire world. Have either you or Alan had the beer Hoegaarden?
Never even heard of it, man.
I had one of them left over in the fridge after the weekend. Oh my god, it was delicious. Alan, have you ever tried it?
Not that I know of.
Word, yeah, I'm trying not to drink until UFC on Fox 10, but I had one Hoegaarden still sitting in the fridge. I had forgotten about, so I decided to crack it open before the damn show. But yeah, Spong calls out Rampage Jackson. They probably aren't going to fight anytime in the near future, as Spong is with the World Series of Fighting and Jackson with Bellator. But theoretically, in a fight between the two, you have Page, who seems to be on the tail end of his career. The UFC dropped him. And you have Spong, who is a little new to the mixed martial arts game. He's not new to combat sports at all. He's very, world-renowned in kickboxing. But in a theoretical fight, who you got? Tyrone Spong or Rampage Jackson? Ramses?
Oh, whoever's up against Rampage, I got them, man. Anybody could beat Rampage. Even I could beat Rampage, man. Wearing Nickelodeon moon shoes, I could beat Rampage's ass. I haven't even smoked weed tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, man, I'll always take whoever Rampage is fighting against unless they pity fight him. But this will probably be a setup to put Rampage over, actually. So in a theoretical fight, I would take Rampage's opponent. But in this worked fight, I think Rampage is going to pull it off. Hell yeah.
Word on the street. Alan, hell yeah.
I think Spong is too green at this point in time in his career to fight a guy like Rampage. I mean, I know Rampage doesn't have the greatest wrestling or the greatest cardio, but if that fight happens, Rampage takes Spong down and grinds him out because, well, let's be honest, like Spong hasn't fought any like actual opponents. They've all been cans. And I mean, he fought a 5'9", 205-pound fat Mexican his last time out, and he was getting tired towards the end of that fight. So I hate to see what happens if he fights a guy the same size as him that's fought legendary opponents, and knows how to go deep. So I don't think that fight needs to happen anytime soon. I think Spong needs about 5 more fights before he would even be able to fight a guy that's on the way out like Rampage.
Yeah, thinking about it though, I'm looking at his record. He hasn't really grinded anybody out with his wrestling since March of '09 against Keith Jardine. Since then, he's 3-4. His only wins coming via bullshit split decision against Lyoto Machida, unanimous decision where he outboxed Matt Hamill, and the TKO victory against Joey Beltran. And he obviously had the losses to Evans, Jones, Bader, and Teixeira. I don't know who I would take. Both of you all seem to be pretty decided for and against Page. I don't know. I think it would be closer than a lot of people think. Spong, I can't wait until they start feeding him, people who aren't cans, because I do agree with that point. We really don't know what Spong can do. He's training with the Black Zillions. They've obviously got a ton of people over there. Hoofed, Kenny Monday training wrestling. So we will definitely see. Speaking of the Black Zillions, let's stick on that theme. Alistair Overeem, no longer a Black Zillion. He's, I guess, training in Thailand or something for his next fight. What are your thoughts on him leaving the Black Zillions? Is that going to be good for him to leave? Is it going to be a negative thing? Because, they do have a lot of pretty great fighters over there. What are your thoughts on him leaving the Black Zillions, aka the Jocko Hybrid Training Center, whatever the fuck you want to call it?
Don't know who you're directing that to first.
Sorry about that, Alan. I'll throw it over to the Westland Eagle. What do you think about Reem leaving the Black Zillions? Good move or bad move?
Well, did he win his last 2 fights?
He lost his last 2 fights to Travis Brown and to Antonio Bigfoot Silva.
Then I think it's a good thing. I think he needs, to change some things around because he needs to win. And if he doesn't beat Frank Mir, he's getting cut.
Ramses, you pretty much agree?
Well, if the question is if leaving the Black Zillions was a good idea for Overeem, yes, of course it was. That's like asking somebody on the Titanic if it was a good idea to get the fuck off the boat into the life raft. All right? You ever have that friend that buys a fucking supposedly a new car, comes by, it looks badass, you get inside, it breaks down halfway through. You ever have that friend come by and introduce you to his new quote hot girlfriend, and then you meet her, and then you gotta pretend, you gotta put on this look on her, you gotta put on a fake smile. That's what being a Black Zillion is like these days. He jumped ship, thank God. God bless him. I hope this turns around for him. He's training in Thailand with some actually I don't know who the fuck he's training with in Thailand, but at least it's not
Lady
the
Boys.
Black Zillion. Yeah,
It's probably with Mike Swick and whoever is at that camp.
don't matter who he is.
Tiger.
It's gonna. God bless him.
All right, we'll move on. We got one last news topic before we get to the most popular segment in show history, Ramsey's Fight Tips. It is back, ladies and gentlemen. This is news that Shogun and Dan Henderson, the rematch, is apparently going to headline the UFC Fight Night card in Brazil on March 23rd. Do you like the fact that they're making this fight again? It was one of the best fights in UFC history, and it is going to be in Brazil. Who you got, Ramses?
Yeah, I'm not feeling good about this fight. I just have to say, I have Shogun in this fight, but you're asking for lightning to strike twice. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. These two men, Shogun and Henderson, punched themselves out. Took years off each other's lives, sacrificed years in their first fight, which they'll never be able to top. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. This fight will probably be much like a Rashad Henderson fight, right? Bunch of patty cake, a couple big swings, and someone will go down quick because they can't take the amount of punishment that they were dishing out just only 3 to 4 years ago. it's really quick when this stuff happens. And there's no reason for them to go to war with each other anymore. I mean, it looks like if this rumor is true and this fight's going down, Dan Henderson already re-upped on his contract. So, why get hurt for less money now than he was getting paid back then on the first fight? You know what I'm saying? Both of them are getting paid less now. Why fight as hard? Why? No reason. I'm predicting a bump fight. Shogun will probably pull it off.
Damn, that's powerful stuff. Yeah, it's funny you bring it up. This literally could be the best fight of 2014 and not top their first fight. Allen, Shogun, Hendo 2. Who you got?
I got Dan Henderson. He's got to win. He can't lose 4 fights in a row. This is probably a 1-fight contract with if he wins, he gets more fights, but if he loses, he gets cut. I don't like the fight. I don't like him taking the Shogun fight, especially in Brazil again.
Oh, it's in Brazil? Oh, Henderson's dead, man. This is his last fight. That's it. It's over.
I actually do have a theory that Vitor, he has got a storage unit full of steroids in Brazil and knows a lot of these steroids are going to expire and knows that he's probably going to be tested a lot for his upcoming fight. Shogun Rua is going to come out looking like the Brazilian Hulk.
God bless him, though.
He's going to shave a mohawk like Vitor. Alan, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, Dan Henderson's going to knock Shogun the fuck out. He's going to finish the job. He started the first fight. He's got to win. I don't care what anybody says. Shogun's not beating Dan Henderson. It's not happening.
Word on the street. And speaking of word on the street, I teased it a couple minutes ago. You know what time it is. All I gotta do is play the damn music.
What's up, people? I'm back with another fight tip of the week. This one's called How to Win a Fight, Any Fight, If You Don't Have a Gun. If you forgot your gun. I mean, we've all been there. You're in your car, you're driving somewhere, and you get that feeling like you're forgetting something at home. You check for your wallet, your keys, your cell phone, and then you're like, shit, I forgot my gun. We've all been there. So what you got to do is substitute, man. You got to improvise on the spot, on the streets, man. You just got to be alert at all times. Everybody's looking to rob everybody. Nice trick I like to do whenever I'm approached or, just by minorities or, just whenever I don't feel comfortable. What I do is I make sure I always keep at least a water bottle handy when walking down the street, going from bar to bar, dive to dive. And someone approaches you, they come at you, they're like, "Oh man, give me your money or whatever, or bend over your girlfriend." You bring out that water bottle, you hold it in front of their face, and you tell them, "Look, man, this ain't. Inside of this bottle is hydrogen dioxide. If I throw this in your eyes, you're gonna be blinded. You're not gonna see what's coming next." It's the truth. Hydrogen dioxide is a scientific term for H2O. Right? Now, if for some reason they see past that, usually they're homeless and they're dumb, they'll believe anything. You use the big word, it's all over. But if they don't believe that, what you do next, you can start breathing all heavy and intimidating. Intimidation is the key here. You start breathing like Chuck Liddell, all right? You rip your shirt off and you take off your belt, pants. You take off your belt and do a backflip out of your pants, all right? No one wants to fight a naked man. Like we all saw that YouTube video where Bruce Lee Caceres is training in the subway naked. He's just doing flips and throwing spin kicks in the air before the cops come and taser him or whatever. You guys remember that shit? So that's what you do, man. You get naked because no one wants to fight a naked man. But you take off that belt, do a backflip out of your pants. Make sure to keep the belt in your hands and start talking crazy. Like Super Bowl crazy, like Richard Sherman crazy, like you're Dick Sherman, and you just realized you're going to the Super Bowl factor. You gotta start talking crazy, just like that.
Let me ask you the final play. Take
in the game. When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you gonna get. Don't you ever talk about me.
Who was talking about you?
Crabtree, don't you open your mouth about the best. Or I'm gonna shut it for you real quick. LOB.
All right, before... And Joe...
Who was talking about you?
Exactly, man. The intimidation factor of being naked is enough to throw off any opponent. But last but not least, I mean, worst comes to worst, you're throwing blows with somebody on the streets. You forgot your gun at home. You got to use your environment for weapons, man. As weapons, I mean, little kids. If there's little kids around, throw them at your attacker.
Cocksucker.
You got to axe kick the clamp off of a fire hydrant. All right, I call that the I have a dream kick. All right, and aim the water stream at your opponent. Use that water pressure, and if you're on the streets, pick up any stray syringes laying around in the gutter and throw them like darts. Shit like that. You remember that one video where the guy is trying to get he's trying to get in on a street sword fight and picks up a manhole sewer cover to use? That was me.
Yeah.
That's the word on the street. Tune in next week for the next fucking fight tip. See you at the dojo.
Is it called the I Have a Dream kick because it's Martin Luther King Day today?
Yeah, you axe kick the bolt off a fire hydrant, and then you aim the water pressure at the schwoogies. So I have a dream kick.
Oh
That's
my
it.
god.
Yeah,
oh
no,
my
man.
god.
It's terrible.
And with that, we will try to move on to the UFC on Fox 10 preview. Holy shit. That is going to be, the main card's going to come on at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Fox. It is going to be in the United Center in Chicago, Illinois, a place I went to a couple times. Very nice venue. If you haven't been there and you're passing through, you get a chance to check out a game there, a Bulls game, a Blackhawks game, whatever. I would highly advise you do. There's not a bad seat in the house. So I'm pumped for everyone in the Midwest who is going to UFC on Fox 10. Wish I could be there myself. But let's get straight to the card. We'll start off with the 7 fights on the prelims. Your lone fight on the UFC Fight Pass is going to be the big ticket Walt Harris taking on Nikita Krylov, who was in the worst fight in UFC history against Soa Paleli, and I will always hold it against both of them. And you have 6 fights on the UFC the Fox Sports 1 prelim card. You got George Sullivan taking on Mike Rhodes in a welterweight bout between 2 people no one's ever heard of before. A lightweight match between 2 tough alumnus. Our boy who's been on the show twice, Darren Cruikshank, he's taking on Mike Rio. And after that, we're going to have 4 bantamweight bouts. So there's going to be a ton of sorting out in that next tier of bantamweight fighters. Junior Hernandez taking on Hugo Wolverine Viana. Chico Camus fighting Yautzin Meza. Eddie Wineland, another alumnus of the show, taking on Yves Jabouin. And we got Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres taking on the younger brother of UFC lightweight champion Anthony Pettis, taking on Sergio Pettis, a guy who Alan and I actually got a chance to see fight live at that UFC 167 card. Of these big fights, the 3 that really stand out to me are Cruikshank Rio, Wineland versus Jabouin, and not just because they've been on the show. Wineland has a very interesting, career arc. I mean, his last fight was against Renan Barão for the title. The fight that was the co-main event of UFC 165, and now he's down on the prelims. So it'll be very interesting to see how he rebounds to a title loss. Those really can take the wind out of guys' sails pretty easily. But I think he'll get back in the win column. Cruikshank, I think, is just a very interesting fighter. If he can really figure out how to keep the fight standing. He has crazy kickboxing. His fight against Abel Trujillo, John McDessie, I don't know how I mixed him up, but it really impressed me the way McDessie kept moving forward, and obviously Alex Caceres and Sergio Pettis. Pettis is a question mark. He was doing amazing at flyweight. He's still 10-0. He definitely had a challenge in Will Campazano that he was able to take out at UFC 167, and he's taken on a guy in Alex Caceres who was in his shoes not that long ago, not being undefeated, but starting off in the UFC just a couple of years ago. Now I think this is going to be his 9th UFC fight, so he's definitely got a lot of fights under his belt. Started off a little rocky, 1-3, hasn't lost in his last 4 fights, looking to rise up the ranks. What do you guys think of that block of fights? I'll throw it to you first, Alan.
Let's put this out there first that Alex Caceres is the luckiest son of a bitch out there because he's been gifted 2 straight decisions. And he can't pass a drug test. If it's your job to pass drug test, then, you should be smart. I'm not judging you for what you do, but if it's your job, come on, man, don't be fucking stupid. So I hope Alex Caceres gets his brains punched in and gets cut from the UFC. I'm tired of him wasting the opportunity of other fighters who would be more diligent in their preparation for fights. Next, Darren Cruikshank. I've been a fan of his since Tough Live. All those guys from Tough Live, Al Aiken to Darren Cruikshank, Michael Chiesa, Sam Cecilia. I love watching all of them because I feel like watching that show. It's like that was the first tough season I had watched in a while, and it was really the bonding that they had. They were all really close, so it was really nice seeing all of them. And Eddie Wineland, I don't mind watching him fight anytime. The dude's entertaining. I mean, he beat Barao in the first round, like, a hairline, edge. But, I mean, I think he took that first round. It sucks he lost the way he did. But, that's why Renan Barao's a monster. But Eddie Wineland, I think he could build his way back up. It's always awesome watching.
Word. Ramses, what do you think about these prelims, UFC on Fox 10? Anything standing out for you?
Yeah, the only thing I care about in the prelims is the Cruikshank fight versus Rio. Darren, man, I want to believe, man, but the past few fights, like, something's been missing. He hasn't been pulling the trigger. And what's the point of, Alan, you know what I'm talking about. Why even bother loading the gun if you're not going to shoot somebody with it? Pull the trigger, Darren. Don't be afraid anymore. Yeah, you're going to break your hands and feet. He almost pulled an Anderson Silva in the, I forget, it was the second to last fight. His shin almost broke. So he almost pulled an Anderson Silva. You guys can look that up, research me, prove me wrong. But yeah, so I understand. He knows he can get hurt now. But he's got to fight like that doesn't matter, because at the time, I mean, it doesn't matter. The other guy's going to hurt you worse probably. So Darren, keep me as a believer, because if I don't see anything impressive from him in this fight, I'm not going to be a believer anymore. I'm just going to be the casual fan and watcher as far as Darren Cruikshank is involved. And he was one of my top 10 fighters. That's the word.
Word. Well, I guess that brings us past the UFC on Fight Pass and Fox Sports 1 prelims and brings us to the UFC on Fox 10 main card that, again, will be starting 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. And we're going to lead off with Darren Elkins taking on Jeremy Stephens in the featherweight division. Both of them are on pretty impressive rolls. Jeremy Stephens did have that 3-fight streak where he lost to Pettis, Cerrone, and Yves Edwards, which those are all very game people. He moved down to featherweight back at UFC 160 this past May. Since then, he's 2-0, defeating Esteban Payon in a fight against Hani Jason, where I believe he was an underdog. He won that in 40 seconds in Brazil against Hani Jason at that Belfort versus Henderson card. Very impressive KO there. And you have Darren Elkins, who's 6-1 in his in his last 7 fights. His only loss coming to a guy who's probably going to fight for the title very soon, Chad Mendes. He has defeated Mishihiro Omigawa, Tia Trang Zong, Diego Brandao, Steven Seiler, Hatsu Hioki, Antonio Carvalho. Actually, a lot of Alan's favorite guys. I'm sorry that Elkins is beating all of your dudes, most of which 5 out of the 6 via unanimous decision. So it's going to be Elkins versus Stevens. I'll pass it off to you first, Alan, because I just mentioned to you who you got. Elkins, the guy who's taken out all of your boys, or Jeremy Stevens?
Little Heathen is going to do me some revenge, and he's going to murder Darren Elkins. Literally murder him. We all know Jeremy Stevens likes to get into a little trouble with the law, and I don't think it's going to be any different because he's going to fucking destroy he's going to destroy Darren Elkins. Darren Elkins doesn't have a chin. He always wrestle fucks people. So, yeah, definitely think that that's going to happen. That's about the only thing I really care about is seeing Darren Elkins die.
Ramses, do you have a strong opinion on this fight as Alan?
Well, I don't wish death on any of these two fighters. I'm sorry, but yeah, Jeremy Stevens. I'm gonna take the opposite, man. Actually, I don't even know who Alan picked. Somebody's got to die, right? But I'm picking Jeremy Stevens. He's actually hungry. He's coming off. This last win that he had was impressive, but come on, that only got him enough money to settle his court fees. All right. Darren Elkins though feels like a guy that's trying to climb over a hump, but he's not going to be able to make it over quite. Yeah, I don't feel anything coming off of that guy, and yeah, he just tries to wrestle fuck. But Jeremy Stevens, man, dropped the weight class, come down to do this, man. He's for real. He's going to be too powerful. He's going to knock out Darren Elkins. Is my prediction.
Word. Let's move on to the next fight. Donald Cerrone. He's making his way back up. He's sort of been on this win-loss thing ever since moving from the WEC. He rattled off four in a row. He beat Paul Kelly, Wagner Hocha, Charles Oliveira, Dennis Seiler. Then he just got his ass handed to him by Nate Diaz. Then he bounced back and beat Jeremy Stevens and Melvin Gillard. Then he lost to Anthony Pettis. Then he beat KJ Nunes. Then he lost to Rafael Dos Anjos. Then he beat Evan Dunham. And I think he beats Adriano Martins here. Cerrone has fought a lot of guys who are as good or better than his Saturday opponent. He's fought Benson Henderson. He's fought Nate Diaz. He's fought Pettis. He's fought Dos Anjos. And I think he's just going to be too much for Adriano to handle. I think he finishes it. I think he has the tools to finish it striking. He has the tools to submit him. Yeah, so I am calling a first or second round finished by Donald Cerrone, who looks like he's opening up on Vegas as a pretty big favorite. He's going to be minus 250 in that fight against the underdog Martins. Ramses, what do you think about this fight?
Cowboys going to win, but I'd just like to take the opportunity to say I apologize to Donald Cerrone for my broke-ass mountain comments following the revelation that he himself made, or at least was proclaiming. Donald Cerrone said he was, broke. He only took the last fight because he didn't have money for the little things or some crap like that. That story broke. So I just made the obvious joke. He's a cowboy living on broke-ass mountain. And then I caught a lot of heat. A lot of heat, people. In the DMs, one person in public who I suspect was Cerrone. But I'd just like to apologize, Donald Cerrone. I mean, we all know that you're not broke, as you came out and said the next day for some reason. You're not really broke. You make great money. You're a great person. I've never heard any rumors or talk about you being an asshole in real life. Never heard that at all. You're the best. You're probably going to be the GOAT of your division. Donald Cerrone. Word on the street.
Alan, Cerrone versus Martins. Who you got?
I called Cerrone versus Donald at 167, and I'm calling Donald Cerrone's name again. I know sometimes he doesn't always show up, like whenever he fought Nate Diaz. But I think it's do or die now. He's had title shots. He's been up there. He's got to put it together. If he doesn't put it together, this is it. He's going to always be a mid-card guy. And everybody, if you understand wrestling, nobody wants to be John Morrison or Kofi Kingston. Everybody wants to be CM Punk, John Cena, or Daniel Bryan. So Donald Cerrone's got to string together a couple of wins and beat a top 5 guy. It's got to happen. 2014, or he might as well go ahead and retire and ride some bulls.
Yeah, I think Cerrone wins too. Let's move on to the co-main event. Stipe Miocic taking on Gabriel Gonzaga. Miocic also a big favorite on the Vegas odds. He's minus 250, just like Cerrone. Also pretty interesting. It looks like the line is that the fight is not going to go very long. It's, I think, minus 190, that it's going to go under 1.5 rounds. People think it's going to end in the first 7.5 minutes. People tend to be thinking that Miocic is going to win via KO or TKO, and Gabriel has a puncher's chance. He is, in his last fight against Sean Jordan, he looked incredible. He's KO'd his last 2 opponents in a combined 1 minute and 50 seconds. Dave Herman and Sean Jordan. The loss before that to Travis Brown, who is a fight away from a title shot. You take that fight out of his record, he's won his last 5. Stipe Miocic, he's 10-1. Has only lost 2 fights ago to Stefan Struve, but he really put forth the best fight of his career in his most recent fight against Roy Nelson at UFC 161, just wiping the floor with him. I think Miocic wins this. He looked, if we see the same Miocic that just bullied Roy Nelson, I think he gets through Gabe Gonzaga pretty easily. What do you guys think? Miocic versus Gabe Gonzaga. I'll start off with you, Alan.
Yeah, they both looked really good as of late, but I think Miocic's got a way better chin, and he's a lot more technical on the feet. He looks more like a boxer when he's in there, and I'm going to go with Miocic. Gonzaga's been there, fell off the horse, and, Miocic, yeah, he did lose that fight to Stefan Struve, but, it is what it is. I think Miocic is going to pull this one out.
Yeah.
What's the word?
Alan is summing this fight up with the yawn. I'm sorry. You know how I feel about these heavyweight fights. I don't care which one of these idiots knocks the other one out. And I'm sorry for, nothing personal or whatever. But I mean, when you're in the octagon and, you're just shirtless, fighting another man, you weigh more than 200 pounds, like, I'm just going to think of you as a lummox, So I don't mean like the idiot thing, but I mean, everybody just wants to see these two guys swing at each other like a bunch of drunken fools in a bar. Buffoons. And it doesn't matter. The fight will be won by whoever connects first, just like it always is at this weight class, unless it's a work like in, Kane versus JDS, a fight that I actually saw happen in Houston.
Word up, yeah. This isn't going to be your number 1 versus number 2. I think Miocic is number 8 and Gonzaga is number 12. Let's move on to the main event: Benson Henderson versus Josh Thomson. But first and foremost, I got to bring the people the stat of the day. Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Here comes the stat of the day! former champions Benson Henderson and Josh Thomson. We'll talk a lot about standing up with one another, but the wrestling will be the key in this one. Thomson has taken down 11 of his last 14 opponents, while Benson has taken down all but 2 of his opponents since joining the UFC.
Start of the day! Start of the day! Start of the day! Start of the day! Here comes the start of the day!
And let's get to it. Ben Henderson taking on Josh Thomson. Josh Thomson and Ben are definitely, around that same area as far as being close to a title shot. But as far as the trajectories they're going in since their last fight, it couldn't be any different. Josh Thomson was sort of on a downwards roll. He lost his last fight in Strikeforce. It was a great fight. It was a split decision loss to Gil Melendez for the Strikeforce lightweight championship, but it was still a loss. But then he just beat the shit out of Nate Diaz, brought it to him, and his stock is skyrocketing up. Benson Henderson, he beat Gilbert Melendez via split decision, so his stock was going up a little bit. He defended his UFC lightweight belt for the 3rd time, and then he lost to Pettis, basically sending him from top 5 pound for pound to being out of the discussion, not knowing when he'll get his next title attempt, because he did lose via first round submission to Tony Pettis. His first loss in a few years, and Benson is 19-3, and I think like one of his first fights, he started his career 2-1. He lost to some no-name named Rocky Johnson way back early in his career. Since then, he has beaten everyone you've put in front of him, not named Anthony Pettis. He's 17-0 against people not named Anthony Pettis. 0-2 against people named Tony fucking Pettis, as Ramses loves to call him. Thomson sort of has the same nemesis thing going on if you take out the Kawajiri fight back at Dynamite 2010, which was in Japan, so you don't know what either guy was taking. His only losses were to Gil Melendez. So it'll definitely be a very interesting match. 2 of the best lightweights in the world. I sort of talked about the wrestling and the stat of the day, and I think that's where the real crux of this is going to take place. Whether who can get who down, and I'm tending to think that it'll be Ben who can stop the Thomson takedowns and be able to take Thomson down himself. Looking at the Vegas odds, mentioning those before, he's minus 280, so definitely a heavy favorite. What do you guys think? I've been yammering about enough. Ramses, Ben Henderson, Josh Thomson, who you got?
I've got my hopes on Josh Thomson because honestly, man, I just want to see Benson Henderson get knocked out or brutally embarrassed in some fashion. Somehow, some way inside the cage. Why? Well, we don't have that much time left on the podcast, but I'll say one of the main reasons is the verbal submission to Tony Pettis, man. That what kind of out was that? That wasn't a way for a champion to go out, verbally tapping, people in the audience scratching their heads, not even knowing what the hell they just saw, if it was over or not. Even the ref was like, what? Like, it was just, and then what happened? He proposed to his woman or something? Like, give me a break, man. Or isn't that marriage already over? Or now I don't know. I just hope Josh Thomson knocks him out.
They're still married.
Well, I hope Thomson knocks Ben Henderson out, and then his wife leaves him. Word on the street.
Damn, word on the street. Alan, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a really good, really exciting fight. I'm picking Josh Thomson to edge Benson in this one. I think there's not a lot of guys that can push Ben Henderson the way that Josh Thompson's going to push the pace and push the fight. I think that Benson's usually able to cerebrally control, the action, fight at his pace. When he fought Frankie, he made Frankie fight at his pace. We're not going to see that from this fight. I think Thomson's got the skills, the size, and the attitude and the vigor to be able to go out there and push the fight on, at his pace. And he's going to put it on Benson. He's going to catch him with, something, and he's going to lay him out. He's going to KO him in the third round.
Word up. Well, we will definitely see who wins that one in the main event. And then once again, you can catch that card at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Fox, UFC on Fox 10. Thank you so much for tuning into the MMA podcast. I'll throw it around one more time. Where can we find you on Twitter and whatnot? Ramses, what is the Twitter, and where can we find the Word on the Street podcast?
At the end, Jimmy Show, I just want to take a quick second to say, Ross, I challenge him to come back out of retirement. He ain't in retirement. He's just scared, bro. That's what I think. All right?
Damn.
Yeah, you took my woman. This isn't about that. I want your trivia belt. I can take it in a fair match. I challenge you to come out of retirement, all right? You're not really retired. You're just scared, bro. That's the word in the street.
Hell yeah, Alan. Where do we find you on the Twitters? What is going on? All that good stuff.
You might be able to find me on Twitter and Instagram and also Facebook at Westland Eagle AH. That's it, y'all. You heard me?
You heard him. And of course, follow our friends MMA Mental, Ross Finkelstein, Yao the Truth, C. Lowenstein, JG, and Sweet Pappy Jones. We love the shit out of you. You can find us at themmapodcast.com, on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. Search us on YouTube, iTunes, the MMA Podcast, or click the links at the top of the page on the MMApodcast.com and take it to our YouTube and iTunes page. Subscribe and follow us there. We usually get them up within a few hours of when the show ends. We'll have them up later tonight. And once again, we appreciate the shit out of you. I love doing this. We will be back tomorrow with the MMA Roundtable, and again next Monday night and every Monday night with the MMA Podcast. Check out the Word on the Street every Tuesday night. We love the shit out of you. We'll see you then. Take it easy. We gone.
I'm in it to win and rep it for my fam and my folks. They say just rap now, man. This is murder you wrote. It's like making these on the streets. If you look in the code, you can compound your creed with an image of hope. Study the foul physics of falsified gimmicks. Ride and fall with it and try to ride different. Your life ain't worth living if you ain't got vision. Come on. We did it, mama. We did it. We did it for the love of the game.